Check, microphone check.
What's up, homies and homettes?
Of course, I didn't do all this shit when I should have.
We just start recording, and you're like, okay, time to just play with the microphone.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, now we're good, I think.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's been a week. It's been one of those. It's the second time where we have a bunch of in stock, like ready to be released, and we're like, oh, we don't need to record as often now. It's nice having three or four extra.
We've still been able to get in that one a week.
Yeah, one a week.
We pushed it right to the max this week, though. We're like, okay, we have to do one today, or we miss our quota.
That's right, and we gotta hit some. Yeah. Hey, we've done this like 3 times in a row now. Last 3 episodes, we talk about your podcast. Well, let's do it again because.
Well, let's plug it. Bump up the numbers. Come on, people.
Yeah, you guys should be downloading his shit like 4 or 5 times, multiple devices. It's appropriate, except for the time you talked about circumcision, and then it's like it's about circumcision, so suck it. And I'm like, what? No, it's supposed to be better. And I'm sitting here trying not to make jokes, but
I know. I'm the host. I'm allowed to break the rules.
Yeah, that's right. I was being good. It's a very good podcast. It's very appropriate.
Have you listened to it?
I did. I gave it the full listen, and I'm like, it sounded good.
Nice. Thank you.
I was really happy with it. So I'm like, oh, this is really good. And I can recommend it to people.
So today is Sunday, March 26th. So as of recording this, we went live with the first 3 episodes of that 1 week ago.
Yeah. So he's been out for about a week. It's called Amateur Christian. Right now it's only available on Podbeam.
And on Audible.
Audible?
It is on Audible.
Cool. And we're going to get it on Apple eventually as well.
Yeah, as well as Spotify.
And Spotify.
It's going to go on the big hitters. We didn't realize since when we did the BCP, we knew for the episodes, as long as we wanted to make these episodes, we had to pay for the deluxe package right from the get-go for the publishing company. And we just assumed that there's lots of stuff that was included in the base package that really wasn't.
No.
So I need to upgrade that package so that we can get it onto Spotify, as well as have better analytics and all that stuff, and episodes longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
The second episode we had to chop into 2, where one was 27 and then the next one was 15.
Yeah, and I don't feel like we went that crazy. We didn't go on a whole lot of tangents like we do on this one, where we'll just talk about other shit.
I know, but that's the beauty of this one. I love that on this one is we can just ramble, have like a real conversation. Yeah. And it'd be that, but not everybody is into that. Not everybody wants to sit and listen to 2 guys bullshit for 2 hours.
Yeah. When then there's other people out there that are like, no, this is a lot of fun. I enjoy listening to these, and
it can't be either or. It can't be either or. Like they're both things that need to exist.
Yeah. The thing is, I listen to ours sometimes, and I find myself laughing like out loud at my own jokes. I'm like, I'm fucking funny. So I want to, because we got it on here, I want to show your intro music and let you talk your way through it and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what I'm working on. So am I good to play it?
Oh yeah, give her.
All right, this is
the intro music to Amateur Christian Podcast.
Yes. I'm going to turn it up a little.
Yeah. I love that bass line Dusty did for it.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that was good. We should have had you record that. I love this Eastern-style guitar solo that fades out with it.
Yeah.
It's deadly. I am so pleased with how that came together. The words for it are inspired by an old Benedictine prayer that actually, like, if you ever see a Benedictine cross, the anagram initials from it will be on there somewhere. But it's a prayer of exorcism and spiritual protection against vanity and ego, as well as just temptations of Satan.
Yeah, and vanity, that's a sneaky one. The whole idea of it is just very sneaky. Like it's like, oh, it's self. Hey, you are good. You deserve this little thing, or a little bit of puffiness, a little bit of pride, and it just works its way in.
And to your best despite your best efforts, sometimes it just happens. So I figured, you know what? If I'm going to do something that's like a public-facing type of deal, like just even including in the intro, it's just an appeal to humility is probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you really thought into your intro. You didn't just be like, hey, I just want cool motorcycle sounds and guns and like for ours, for the blue collar philosophers.
That being said, I love ours though.
Yeah, they both have their place. Like you were saying, this has its place, and simultaneously, your amateur Christian being able to talk about the things that you talk about, like baptism, has its place, and it's very, very good.
Yeah, and that's what the first main episode was. Like, there was an intro episode, but the first actual topic was baptism, and thankfully, you were on with me for that one. Like, oh my gosh, like
it's difficult.
It is difficult talking alone on a microphone.
Yeah, I was thinking about. I've been briefly thinking about working on a comedy set and trying. I'm like, man, I kind of want to try stand up. Just one time. And be like, where are my Arab brothers at? You guys are a blast to fly with. That's why I avoid you. Like that just airport
just a
jokes.
A joke that's like 25 years too late.
Yeah, that's right. I'd be like, you guys are awesome over there. I'm like, you don't know what to do with me because I look like one of you. And you're like, oh, is he with us?
Oh, that's funny. Is there anywhere to do stand-up here?
Only during the Laugh Your Ice Off thing. And you gotta be inner circle in order to, get as an opening act for the guys that they hire to bring in, but they bring in their own people, and then they make fun of the people that are opening acts. It's like, oh, you're just a local. Well, I'm a local that nobody really knows.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, oh, you don't know. Maybe I'm from Dawson. Fuck that place. Or don't. I don't know. And so, yeah, I thought about it. I just think of random things, and I've got lots of little jokes here and there. I'm like,
yeah,
I think I could last a half hour pretty easy.
You should start working on something.
Just work on a set just for fun.
Yeah, I mean, just for fun. I started writing like a short story recently.
Yeah.
Just like, you know what? I feel like exploring an idea in my head, and I don't know if this is ever going to go outside the notes file in my phone, but I'm going to start writing a short novel.
Yeah,
just
awesome.
Just to do something with thoughts in the brain.
Yeah, just to get them out. Which, that's a nice little segue. What we're going to be doing today, we're going to be getting thoughts out. Okay.
I know, we're cleaning out the fridge.
Yeah.
Of our pod brain.
We get suggestions once in a while, and we have thoughts once in a while that we're like, oh, this is a great little topic, but it's a little topic. It's not enough to do 15.
Yeah, it just doesn't justify a whole episode. And maybe you can argue that none of the things we talk about can justify a full 2 to 3 hour episode, but fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. Do your own podcast. Be like, oh, this is reviewing blue-collar philosophers, and each one's 5 minutes because that's how much it takes to take it. That's how much time it takes to actually dwindle down everything they said in the last 3 hours. Go ahead. That would be great.
We're having fun.
Do you know that people do that with the Joe Rogan experience? There is post-Joe Rogan podcasts where they'll listen to Joe Rogan experience and then do a podcast about his podcast.
You know you've made it when?
Yeah.
That's amazing. There's whole podcasts
that gets good numbers too.
Entirely dedicated to breaking down your podcast.
Yeah. What's that other guy? The shock comic or the shock radio guy on Sirius.
Oh, I should know this.
You should. Everyone knows who I'm talking about. That tard. Sorry.
Why can't I remember? Like he's I want
to say Bill, but I know that's not right.
Yeah, he's got the Jewish guy with the big hair. He shock rock radio for forever. Why do I? Howard Stern. There we go. Howard Stern.
I said Bill. I know that was right. Howard Stern, yeah, he has multiple shows that talk about his show, like post shows, and I'm like, if you just want to blow the guy. You don't have to go through all this like, oh, we're gonna make an effort and put all this money. I'm like, just go ahead, it's fine. Whatever you're gonna do to get your rocks off, I don't care. I couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
I could do it for Joe Rogan though, because he has some great guests. And it's so fun listening to his. Like, oh, I want to explore this thing that he like tasted. Like he just dipped his toe in this and then just walked away. I'm like, there's so much there. But we're not going to do that either.
Like I feel like maybe it's time for me to start listening to more podcasts again because like I need some more inspiration for this one.
Fifth Column, it's fun. They're lefties.
That'd be a good one, because that one would be on the opposite side of the political spectrum of me.
Yeah, but they're not hyper left in the area in that way. They're a slight left. They're like we're left-ish, but we hate Trump. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm getting more in that camp the more I learn. Just because he just won't shut the fuck up. You had your time.
Yeah,
Go away.
it's like we're over you, dude.
We're done.
The thing is, not everybody's over him.
No. They're like, he's our last hope, and I'm like, no, he's not. He's stop looking for a savior.
He's really not.
No politician should ever be your savior. None. Not a single one. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't like this. But yeah, it is what it is. I still want to do a hot takes one, but again, looking at how much struggle it is to get a second one for you going, and I'm like, oh, I don't have money to do one, and I'm not doing short. I'd want to get all my analytics and all that. So I'm like, I'm just going to wait a little bit.
Okay.
Something will pop up and I'll be like, okay, now I have to make one to do this. So it'll be fun. All right. So we're going to be cleaning out the closet. We have ideas and we didn't know what idea to go with. So we kind of filled a hat.
Yeah, we took like a bowler hat that you have, and we put a whole bunch of sentences on cardboard paper, folded it up, put it in the hat, and we're going to randomly draw it and then answer off the cuff. Like, so none of this stuff has forethought or prep or...
Which allows a certain level of forgiveness then. Because you're listening to our thoughts as we're coming up with them. Like, I've thought about it a little bit, you've thought about it a little bit, and we can
on any given episode, you can take everything we say with a grain of salt. And we're just asking for a little extra salt today.
Extra salt.
Extra salt.
Extra salty. So I was going to say, hey, we should get one of my kids in here to like pull a thing, but I've got some topics in there that have some, not choice words, but just words that I don't want to have to explain to him or her later on and be like, oh.
Daddy, what's butt stuff?
What's butt stuff? Your butt. It has stuff that comes out of it. What is poop? Yeah, that's it. I can't ask that.
Everybody poops but you.
Everybody poops but you. My nephew said something about that. He's like, do you know what poop is? And I'm like, do you know what poop is? You know it comes out of your body, but do you know the chemical breakdown of what it is? I'm like, yeah, that's how you fuck with kids. Like, you think you know, but you only know about this much, which could get up one of our questions. So, we're drinking tequila, and...
Yeah, it's weird. We're sipping tequila on ice today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's,
different. We're running out of booze.
Yeah, it's flavorless, and...
Yeah, it's like...
I'm not particularly enjoying it.
No. I think I might switch to knob after this. I got a paycheck coming in. I'll be able to get us another bottle of something.
Booyah. Mm-hmm. All right, well, without further ado, let's... Here's me mixing it. I don't know what
topic is going to be coming out. He just chose one. He's going to look at the writing, and if he can't read it...
Which is your favorite beers?
Oh!
All right, so we can start off with a light one.
Keep it light. Okay, I'm not going to lie. For a long time, I was into that IPA shit.
Yeah.
I say shit because it just stopped doing it for me. It just had too much going on and too much, I don't know, a little too pretentious. And I just like, oh, it's got fruit, it's got hops. And then the more I drink hops, I'm like, I don't really care for hops. Mm-hmm. I don't. And I'm like, no, I like a lager. I like a Pilsner. I think one of the local brews here, Peace, what is it called?
Mighty Peace?
Mighty Peace Brewing has a golden lager.
It's really good.
It's really good. It's a solid lager. So I like lagers, IPAs. No, not anymore. I used to drink a lot of Alexander Keith's. That was my go-to beer for years.
I mean, as far as IPAs go, though, Alexander Keith's is like the Budweiser, right? It's light, easy drinking.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what I've never bought though? Okay, I can't say that directly. I've never, in the last 10 years, bought a case or a bunch. I've never bought a case of Budweiser. Not my whole life. Mm-hmm. Not one. I've bought lots of beer, and I've never bought Budweiser. Like as a case.
Yeah.
If I'm at an event and all they have is Budweiser.
Yeah, you pay for a single beer.
Yeah, that doesn't count. You do, but you don't buy a case. So, what about you? What's your favorite? What's your go-to?
My go-to is Sleeman's Honey Brown.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's like I like a good honey brown beer.
Yeah. when I first started drinking alcohol, one of the guys that I would drink with, he would be like, "This is the Cadillac of beer," and for a long time, I actually took his word for it. Like Sleeman's was the Cadillac of beer, and now I'm like, it's beer, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a sweetness to it. Like it definitely has a honeyness going on, but it's a normal mass produced beer, right? It's definitely harder drinking than it is Budweiser or Alexander Keith's, just because it's like thicker, and I think it's more yeasty.
Yeah, it's got some body to it.
It's got some body to it. Like I can't drink much of it, otherwise I just feel super bloated.
Yeah.
So that's one of my go-tos. My other go-to would be either Guinness or...
See, that's a man's beer. I'm sorry, but I am not man enough to drink Guinness.
It's either Guinness or what is the other one there?
Heineken?
No, it's one made by Guinness. Damn it, why am I forgetting the name?
I don't know.
It's a cream ale. So it's the same sort of thing, but it's brewed with like a cream in it. Damn it, one of my favorite beers, and I can't remember the name. Okay, so my first time drinking Guinness was on my 19th birthday.
What?
Yeah, my 19th birthday was the first time drinking Guinness. That was.
How did you come to that choice?
Coming of age, like getting.
Who was your influence?
Nobody. So
you were like
just getting to go to a restaurant and buy my own beer for the first time in my hometown, because
you could jump
I was
Alberta.
legal. I was legal to drink in Alberta a year before that, as well as just had beer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At home around the campfire. It's not like it was my first time, the holy grail of having beer.
Yeah.
But so I figured, like, okay, well, if I'm going to go to a restaurant and actually order a beer legally for my first time in my hometown, I don't want it to be one I'm super familiar with. Like, I want it to actually like be. So I ordered a Guinness, and right from the get-go, just that thick char taste hit me. I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. And I drank a quarter of it, and then the waitress came by. I was like, how's your Guinness? And I was like, it's great. I took it and I slammed the whole thing in one long glug, 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 glug.
Just to get it over with.
Just to get it over with. I was like, I'm not wasting it.
Yeah, this is my first.
I paid damn good money for that, and I got a honey brown after.
Okay,
but
then I have a follow-up question to this one.
Yeah.
What was your first alcoholic drink?
My first alcoholic drink would have been red wine or no. Okay. No. If we're gonna go right all the way back,
you're at your juvenile, like, first one, like, that you're doing something you probably shouldn't, kind of thing like that.
Oh, it would have been a Corona.
It was a Corona.
Yeah, it would have been a Corona.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you had something before that, like
yeah, either a sip of my dad's red wine, or like my mom would every now and then give me like one of those, like, remember those coolers in like the
wine coolers?
The wine coolers in the early 90s, like super sweet. They're like 0.5 alcohol.
0.05.
Yeah,
anything.
like,
yeah.
It's negligible, right? It's not really like an alcoholic
You'll
drink.
get sick before you get drunk, kind of.
Yeah. And, so that technically would have been the first thing. I was like, oh, this is a grown-up drink.
Yeah.
Sitting and having that. But my first time actually having
there's so much sugar in
an
those
alcoholic
things.
beverage would have been, like, sitting and having my own beverage would have been a Corona.
Okay, mine was a pina colada. I don't know why, but a bunch of dudes from school, we all got together, and it was Buddy's birthday, and his parents were cool with it, and they're like, here, and we just had pina coladas and schnapps.
If you like pina coladas,
I did.
Getting caught in the rain.
Yeah. Looking back, I'm like, it's kind of gay. It's fine.
Gayer than singing pina coladas for all the world to hear?
Yeah, a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Anyways, so yeah. To my homeboys out in Quebec, if they're probably not listening, but... what are those guys? Ian and Pascal. Oh, boys. I got to message them this one. But pina coladas and schnapps. I don't remember
You should send an email to this
sourpuss.
Pascal fella and tell him his wager is bullshit.
So, yeah, that was the first one that I did that was, like, juvenile, like, oh, this is kind of bad.
Yeah.
And for me, anyways. For them, they were like, oh, this is my fifth time. I was a junior. I came so late.
All right, that's one.
Oh, what? patterned numbers?
Oh, angelic numbers.
Angelic numbers. Okay, we wrote it twice. So. All right, angelic numbers. This is something that
So what the hell is an angelic number?
Okay, so if you ever see, I want to say 2 or 3 or even 4 numbers in a row.
Okay. Like 666 or
666,
777 or
1111 on a
Okay.
clock and all this stuff. Like, oh, or even in calendar years. Like, this Christmas will be, or no, the January 23rd was 1, 2, 3, 23. And like, there's these ways of having numbers that like, oh, they kind of just all line up in a way that's very significant or seems significant. And we do that all the time. Remember 2020? 2020 was supposed to be a year of revelation for some people because 2020 vision, you're going to see things differently or see more. There's these ideas that we project onto numbers.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, what is it about these numbers? Because people do it all the time. Especially when we were in the club, people would always be like, oh, man, I saw these numbers everywhere I went.
Yeah,
it has to mean something.
numerology.
Yeah, and so I'm like, or there's something else going on. So I go and do some research, and do you know what they call them? Angelic numbers.
Okay.
The universe is trying to tell you something. And then I was like, no, that seems a little bullshitty.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like Jim Carrey has this thing. He is obsessed with the number
Is he?
23.
No, there was a movie called The Number 20.
Yeah.
Oh,
he made
jumped
that. He made that movie because of his obsession with the number.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I know there's been actual books written on the number 23. So they project a certain level of values onto these numbers or significance onto these numbers. And I kind of call bullshit very early. I'm like, no, I'm a little bit materialist in this way where I'm looking at the here and now and the physiological aspect of it. I'm like, what is it about numbers that really jump out to us? Mm-hmm. And so we have a thing in our history of valuing the discovery of patterns because when you find a pattern, you can find something, a consistency, and you can use that consistency to your advantage. So we have a reward system in our brain with dopamine. So whenever we see a pattern, our body's like, oh, there's a pattern, and we get rewarded for it with a dopamine dump into our system.
Okay.
And so what happens is your brain says, there's a pattern. Oh, there, that was nice. And so it's like, do you know what your brain now wants?
To find more of that.
More dopamine.
Yes.
So what got you the first one? Consecutive numbers. So you're going to constantly be looking. So the more that you find them, the more you see, or the more dopamine you get, the more you see them because you're looking for them.
Okay. I mean, so they're just from a strictly mathematical point of view, there is an immense value in that because of our ability to use math, abstract it into things like physics or just being able to do simple submission, division, all that. Like, you it's an incredibly useful tool to see and find patterns and numbers.
Yes. Heck, I've my kids.
So it's not a bad impulse.
No, it's not bad, but to project a supernatural significance onto it and be like, oh, this is God. God is trying to tell me something through these numbers, instead of just being like, oh man, this is really cool. Or, oh, I saw these numbers. And then saying, okay, it's God. So is dopamine your God at that point? Because maybe you don't understand yourself or understand biology enough to be like, oh, there's something else going on? Or sometimes, sure, maybe there is. Maybe you prayed to see a certain number. Be like, God, if I see a 11 today, I will give my life to it. And you see, like, all day your clock flashes 11. Okay, that's not normal because normally it flashes 1200 or whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't like them because I don't see a hyper-spiritual thing. I just see a dopamine dump. Now I do anyways. But there's nothing online about it. There's no papers written on it. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, I discovered this, somebody said this. I'm like, no, there has to be more. So I overthought it. But maybe they are angelic numbers. But I don't think so.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on this one. Like,
yeah,
I'm not seeing much there that I'm like, oh yeah, but this or yeah, but that. I mean, there's certain things where you can use, let's say, numbers and letters interchangeably.
Yeah.
Like there's certain languages or cultures where they're their numbers double as letters.
Yeah.
And so you've kind of got this liminal space where you can use both to convey meaning,
Yeah.
and then as culture, society builds around that, you have, more baggage on each symbol, and so in that culture, you're like, let's say you see certain numbers and you're like, oh, that means that. It's as if you're seeing the letter, seeing numbers spell, George, that those numbers in that order, like that is shorthand for Nero, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
8675309 is that girl's phone number. And that's just forever what it is.
Yeah. So there's an element where when we choose to take numbers and bestow meaning upon them in a great and cultural way that kind of takes on a life of its own, there is a way numbers are more than just numbers.
Yes.
And how they can be placed in times and places intentionally as markers or as signifiers of special meaning.
Yes.
That is different than just being like, oh my gosh, I see 4 letters repeating or 4 numbers repeating in in a sequence in that street sign over there. Like, what is God trying to tell me right now?
Yeah. Instead of being like, that's what number you're at.
I mean, I've heard situations where it's like, oh man, that's uncanny.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure how to go around that one. My favorite one was when we were with the club in the early days.
Yeah.
There was a fella that wanted to join. And he was one of those guys that was always like hot and cold, right?
Yeah.
Until he ultimately
was cold.
was
They
cold.
always end up cold.
But right before deciding he was all the way out cold, he was, having one of those existential angst drives, and he saw like the number of our club. It was probably a really good example of this, but the number of our club was 43.
Yep.
You took the first number of one of the names, of
first letter
of the names.
of the club. To
First letter,
and the second letter,
and then you apply to it the corresponding number as you count it up. A, B, C, D.
Yep.
Is 1, 2, 3, 4. So our number was 4, 3, not 43, but 4 and 3 for D and C.
Yeah.
And so we would use that as shorthand all over the time for our organization. I mean, this is a perfect example of
attributing values to numbers.
Yeah, attributing value to numbers and having it make sense in your context.
Yeah.
And so this fellow was deciding to go or to pursue, membership in this whole thing and having this whole day of nonstop angst until he finally was driving around a city he'd never been to, in a neighborhood he's never been before, just randomly driving around, and he stops, and his wife was like, "Hey, look at that sign over there. It says your last name." And he looked, and the name of the street was his last name, and then right beside it, it said 43rd Ave.
Yeah.
So his name, 43.
Bam.
And bam, he's like, that's my sign. I am supposed to be here. I'm like, this is where God wants me. Okay, God, message received loud and clear.
Yeah.
And came back, relayed that story to us. We're like, oh, dude, that is uncanny. I'm not entirely sure how to explain that away. That, that maybe does seem like God was answering a question for you specifically. Yeah. And a month later, he was gone forever.
Yeah.
So it was like, it didn't mean anything enough for him to stick with it.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, what? Did he fail?
Yeah, was that...
Did the numbers fail?
Was that just one of those things where they happened to see something and then boom, dopamine hit, and on, like it... But I mean, like, there's... Let's say you do see a random number that has some sort of, it sparks the thought, the dopamine dump, it hooks you. I mean, maybe it is random, but if it's something good and meaningful... Maybe you can find a valuable message in it. Yeah. But that depends on you sticking with your conviction.
Yeah. If you're going to say, if your yes means yes and your no means no,
then stick with it.
Yeah. Like, you're like, yeah, I know that one, because my yes was yes for a long time.
Until it was a no.
Until it was forced into a no. Yeah. And it just kind of got to that, So, living by your conviction. All right, so... And also, I think you can do the same thing where you see the numbers, get no dopamine kick because you're just like, you're very like myself. I don't get dopamine kicks anymore from that. I'm like, oh, there it is, and I just walk away. There's no like, oh. But if I constantly see them, I don't stop recognizing them. I don't stop seeing them. I just don't get the excitement or the joy out of them. They could still mean something, and I just...
Isn't it amazing how materialism makes the world so much less magical?
Oh, yeah, it sucks.
Just all the things that are pretty and cool are just cold, gray, and dull.
Yeah. All right.
On that note...
New topic?
Let's do it.
All right. Now, hopefully we don't pick out one of... Because I wrote that one, too, but...
If you pick it again right now, it's a sign.
Oh, wait. What? Oh, yeah. What does it mean to be woke?
What does it mean to be woke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this for a long time. It meant something good. It did. It means you are more aware of the system than you were before. The system is kind of set up in a way that...
The word implies, it
implies everyone else is
asleep and now you have been awoken.
Yeah. And now it projects a negativity to anyone who's not like you. It's like, oh, you're all asleep. Instead of being like, no, we just see what you are. And I don't know. Not agreeing with it.
You know what's funny? Like, so on the left, right, we pejoratively call them woke.
Yeah.
But that was like a badge of honor then. Like for a time, they don't like the word anymore because now the right side has beaten it to death as pejorative, right?
Yeah.
But there was a time, like I remember podcasts where like, oh man, my white homie here is all woke. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah,
right? Like they were super stoked when you would see what they saw.
And they would say, stay woke.
Yeah.
Stay woke.
Yeah, but nobody thinks of that way anymore because of just how much negativity is thrown onto the word, which is a shame because it's a good word for being somebody who's awoken something.
Yeah, aware of something deeper than themselves, aware of the world around them.
But it's funny, the right side of the spectrum has this whole thing of red pill now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are you a red pill? Which is the same way of being like, are you woke?
Yeah.
Because it's an allusion to the movie The Matrix.
Yeah.
Where
red
Neo
pill,
was presented.
Red pill, blue pill.
Yeah. Like this pill, you will, you're going down a rabbit hole and you're going to see how deep the rabbit hole really goes. You're going to be aware. We're pulling back the veil and you're going to have special knowledge of existence. Blue pill.
Go back to the way you were.
Yeah, you go back to sleep. Stay in the Matrix, right? So it's the same.
It is.
It's the same meaning applied to it is staying asleep in the Matrix or being awoken to the reality of the world.
Yeah.
So right and left both use it.
Yes. We just we view the opposite side in such a negative light
all the time. Like we don't stop to think ever really like, is there something you have to offer here?
Yeah.
Like, we just say like, oh, you woke Marxist piece of shit.
Socialist commie motherfucker.
Yeah, or you MAGA loving hillbilly.
Yeah.
It's like we just it's just sides.
Yeah.
And if you're on my side, you're enlightened. If you're on your side, you're a sheep plugged in the Matrix.
And it doesn't matter which side you are, you're viewing the other side like that.
But I mean like there's things I feel about that way where I'm like, oh man, I wish guys could see things the way I see them. I wish you could see things the way I see them. Like why, and
that asymmetric insight.
Asymmetric insight. And not just in politics or life, like it's in stuff like religion and spirituality where I'm like, there's things I assume I've been woken up to that people aren't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wouldn't the world be better if everybody thought of God the way I did?
Yeah.
Like it happens.
Yeah,
it's just part of life. You can't strongly believe things without wanting people to believe it too.
Yeah, it's frustrating because you just want other people to understand the way, not to understand you, but to understand things the way that you understand them, and it's difficult because maybe they understand things differently. And you can learn from them, and you can grow, and you can build relationship. And that's why I think one of the best things we do is we get to have conversations with people that we disagree with here. And I think that is so good. I think it's one of my favorite things, the fact that we get guys like Will on, because we disagree on so many things. But by having him in here, we get to both grow deeper in understanding of one another. And you don't get that when you just see each other as opposites. When you're just like, oh, we just disagree. It's like, yeah, no, we disagree, but We can find common ground in some areas. We can have conversations that go really well. That reminds me, we got to have Will back on.
Yeah, we must.
So, yeah. No, woke. What does it mean to be woke? Just
I think it means to believe in something and wish other people believed it too.
Yep.
Like I think at its base, no matter what side of something you're on, you're going to feel woke and you're going to think other people are asleep.
Yeah. And you've had some level of epiphany that you wish the other side would have. And maybe
Epiphanizing all over the place.
Yes. So, stay woke, everyone. I can't even use it. Unironically, it's horrible. Right. You want me to choose another one, or you want to choose one?
All right, let me do it. I gotta reach in. Into the rabbit hole hat.
Yeah.
We call it the pod hat.
The pod hat. It looks
From
like
our
a
pod
pea
hole.
pod. Remember,
Okay.
we already did angelic numbers.
Do you think guys and gals can be just friends?
I think on this one, I really got to dive into the idea of what does it mean to be a friend? Because I don't think they can be, to a certain degree. Like, what kind of friend are you talking about? Because your wife and I are friends-ish.
Okay.
I know who she is. She can call you. She needs help, and you're not around. She can call me, and I'm there. She's got a lot of other people she can call too. But if for some reason, and same thing with me needing her help. My van broke down last year, and I'm like, I need a ride, or I need someone to grab my kids.
Yeah.
I could call your wife because I'm like, okay, I know, but does that make her and I friends? Yeah,
I think so.
but we're not like besties. I don't think you can be best friends with a guy or girl. I think if you spend more time with them than you like, if you were a chick and I spent more time with you than I do, as much time as I do with you, as opposed to my wife, it'd be like I think there's too much of a conflict or potential for conflict there.
Okay, so you're saying like, if I was a female, your wife would have good reason to be like, what the hell?
Yeah. Okay.
For how much time that we hang out together.
Yes. Well, imagine I spent the amount of time I spend with you. Imagine if I spent it with your wife.
Yeah.
Would you be cool with that?
Yeah. No.
No. And you'd be like, no, there is a certain level of, I think there's going to be a certain level of intimacy that is biologically ingrained into us.
Now, does that, like, so, considering your relationship with my wife,
Yeah.
I would say that is a perfectly applicable just friends.
Yes.
Like, that's an appropriate level of relationship.
Yeah.
For, for two heterosexual, people of the opposite gender to have.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. Like, it's not like you need to be like, I'm abstaining from contact with all
the opposite gender.
females. It's like, no, it's
No.
like I've got female cousins that I'm like really close with.
Yeah.
Like, we're friends, and I probably there's the family dynamic there too. But like, I spend just as much time with her as with her
it's
husband.
Mennonite, so it still doesn't count. Like, you still got to worry.
There's people I've met in the world who I'm on very, very friendly terms with.
Yeah.
Who
But
are
I'm
of
not
the opposite
calling
gender.
to like crash at their house. If their significant other's not home, like if they're single, I'm not crashing at their house. I don't care how good of friends I am with them. No, it's just not happening.
Yeah. So I mean, like, anytime you've got a man and a woman together in the same scenario, it's a scenario where there's potential.
Yeah.
Right? And so you need to be cautious about that potential. You need to keep it rightly ordered.
Yeah.
But that's not to say you're not friends.
Yeah.
It's not to say you're not
I think the
good
words,
friends.
I think there's a better word for it. Or the phrase doesn't work right.
I don't know, like,
Intimate friends? I can't be intimate friends. Like, there's a certain level of intimacy between you and I that we can have that's not sexual in nature, but everyone always projects the word intimacy with sexual.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with a female. If you had the same level of intimacy as you would with another dude or whatever, that it carries a different tone with it.
oh, fair enough. But I mean, like, let's say, like, if we brought in one of our female friends to have a podcast with, I would think nothing of it to sit down and have, like, a jovial, super friendly conversation for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And, be like, all right, sweet, that was awesome. Can't wait to have you on next time.
Yeah. But I think there's a certain level of, again, accountability when it comes to that, where I'm here, you're here, you hold me an account to be like, okay, Mike, you're not going to be stepping over any lines in the way that you speak to this person because I'm here. And likewise, you're not going to step over any lines either because I'm holding you into a higher account to be like, hey, this is how we conduct ourselves. And I don't know if we do it intentionally or passively, but we do
I would say
it.
it's probably passive. I mean, like there is a level too where you're like, if your entire view of the female persuasion is that your potential thing for me to put my penis in, you've got a really disordered view of the world.
Yes.
Like, it's like you need to really get over.
We really do live in a very disordered world where everyone is a potential partner or a potential mate. And I think there is a certain level of biological influence to be like, because that was a large part of it, is males are looking to put their seed into something. And I put up safeguards around me to make it so I don't have the opportunity or even the thing. But at the same time, part of that is surrounding myself, hanging out with the right people at the right time. I don't hang out with chicks that are not my wife. I don't. Unless my wife is there or somebody else is there. I'm not going to call up your wife to hang out with me. Oh, yeah, my wife's out of town. Do you want to hang out? No. But the same thing. We put ourselves in these situations to safeguard ourselves.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that, like, we're capable of making good choices, and sometimes we need to we need to treat ourselves like we're not just degenerate pieces of shit.
Yeah.
It's like when you think about yourself all the way that time, like, is there any wonder when when you act it? You know, like
you're projecting. One person could be projecting their failure into existence by treating themselves as if they are incapable of having a female friend.
Yeah, like if you were to be the kind of person that says on a regular basis to themselves, I am capable of being friends with everybody and I'm loyal to my wife and my wife alone.
Yeah.
Like, it's if that was to be a self-image that you projected, I think you would be a lot less prone to stumbling.
Yes. I also think there's a certain thing to be said for safeguards of being above reproach. There are people that I've known that they like to think they're above reproach, but they conduct themselves in a way where it's like, hey man, you could be questioned and you would be your word against everybody else's. It's like, yeah, but I wouldn't. And I'm like, I don't care if you wouldn't. Your word, if that female decided to turn against you and she had plenty of opportunities to say, hey, there was this moment that we were alone when nobody else was around.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of that too is try to be a good judge of character.
Yeah,
people.
Don't hang out with those chicks.
Don't hang out with fucking crazy people.
Yeah, crazy people suck. I don't care how good looking they are. They're crazy for a reason.
Yeah, it's I can think of girls offhand right now that I'm like, oh no, hell no, I am not going to be friends with you. I don't trust you.
Yeah,
and others that I'm like, absolutely, I would. If the occasion just came about where we were hanging out together and nobody else was there, I wouldn't feel threatened that you would do something to make it weird.
Yeah.
Right? And my wife would also be 100% okay. Like, oh, her? Pff, yeah.
Yeah.
All good.
But at the same time, there is something to be said. Same time, being like, getting yourself preoccupied. It's like, oh, I've got something else I can be doing, or I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't know. I don't trust myself in a lot of ways. Because I am naive in that way, I'm like, I don't know how I would react in this scenario because I haven't put myself in that scenario. And do I want to chance it? I don't think it's worth it. Because maybe I fail, maybe I don't.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, plenty of marriages have collapsed because of really good friendships that went too far when the other person wasn't around.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
That happens. Like, there's no pretending that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and to believe it's like, oh, I'd never do that. No, you're naive. You've never had the opportunity. That's what naive means. You do not know because you cannot know. Where I'd just rather not know in some areas. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'd rather be above reproach. I cockblock myself at restaurants. I do. I'm like, if I'm at a restaurant with some people, I'm like, oh, yeah, my wife had this really great joke. I'll like bring her up in conversation. It's like, oh, my kids want to see pictures? And I'll be like, no, everyone needs to know I'm married and I have kids. So It's weird. All right, let's pull another one.
All right, let's do it. What's wrong with sexual preferences?
Yes.
Okay, then.
This might be a little longer. We might have to couch this one. Because I've been thinking about this recently.
All right.
The idea of sexual preferences has been poo-pooed on. A lot of people are like, no, you're born that way. And I disagree with that for one reason, which is the allowances that we make for people who are born a certain way. We make allowances. We say, oh, if you were born that way, you can't help it, you can't change. That's just who you are. I don't like that. But let's just go a different direction than the I don't like that. Why do we need to make it a biological thing as opposed to a personal decision? What gives it more significance to say this is something I'm born with as opposed to this is my choice? I am making this choice. I'm doing it intentionally. I know the risks. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. This is a choice. And no one ever allows that. They say, no, you're born this way.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think now how to approach that. If you're to think about it within the terms of heterosexual relationships, everybody thinks that way. Like, oh, you've got a type, like,
yeah.
Yes, there's people that, you have preferences for,
yeah,
tall, blonde, brunette, large rack, tiny butt. I don't know, whatever is
half gargoyle, whatever it is. Watch too many cartoons and
yeah. I mean, like there's always going to be people who, for whatever reason, you are more attracted to because of physical traits than others, right? That you find appealing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, there's that.
Yeah, but so you're talking about sexual imprints where there's things that are imprinted on you from a very young age. They say that people from poverty love women with big breasts because... This is, again, some other study. I don't know where, but I heard it somewhere. And they said people who from poverty love women with big breasts because they desire nourishment. They desire what they never had because they had malnourished mothers or they had desires that were never met as children. So we project our desire for something that we were not getting as children onto our future spouse or onto our sexual preference. So they like women with big tits because they come from a poverty mindset.
Do you think there's
people who are well
do you think there's anybody in our world like in like Western culture that is so deprived of nourishment that that's the reason they like big knockers?
They think they are. They think they are deprived.
Is that why Kanye West likes big knockers?
Yes, I think he came from stealing IKEA pants.
Fair enough.
But
I mean,
but if you come from wealth, you're more likely to either not care or desire smaller ones. Like, because you don't care. You're like, oh, whatever. Because I had whatever I wanted when I was a kid. Now I can have whatever I want now.
I don't know. I think that's a lot of psychologizing.
I'm just saying from a study I've heard. That's all. It wasn't. It's not just me. But at the same time, there's preferences imprinted on you. Why? So you have things that you like, but for some reason, when it comes to men and women, we have to, again, make it a thing. Because, I don't know, as I've gotten a little bit older, I kind of see the beauty in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, is it preference or is it just, am I geared this way? Is it a choice? Or do I just find beauty where I find beauty? I really do think that a lot of people, they don't want to be held in account for their own desires or their own thing. And instead of saying, this is a choice that I like.
But even that narrative has changed, like with the sexual identity revolution, right?
Yeah.
It's changed to what do you feel like you are or what do you want to be?
Yeah.
It can, that can change based on your decision.
Yeah.
Even that language of born this way almost feels outdated now.
Yeah.
Like, I think the overall mentality is coming more in line with what you are, of it being something that you are
owning your choice.
You're owning and choosing, and that and that opens up that actually opens up the realm of conversation over sin and rebellion and stuff like that again, right? Like, 'cause now you can actually before you're talking apples and oranges, right? Like, no, I was born this way. No, it's a choice. I mean, like, if those are the two sides you're arguing over, and you fundamentally believe different things, there's no conversation to be had.
Yeah.
Unless you can convince them to epistemologically change their position
you just gotta
about being born or choosing. So now, even though the choices are more rampant, Pandora's box has been opened, but now you can actually have intelligent conversation on, like, is a choice right or wrong?
Yeah. Which does allow you for a better conversation. But when you just when somebody doesn't want to justify, doesn't want to have the conversation, doesn't even want to have a good faith conversation that you actually want well for the other person, when they're not willing to do that, they divert to, I was born this way. You want me to just not be born this way, not feel this way just because? It's like, it's lazy.
But everybody's lazy.
Everybody is lazy. The more I learn about myself, the lazier I am when it comes to look at the Angels conversation. I just don't like them because I don't have the bandwidth. I'm lazy. But yeah, so I don't know. I think there's a lot more value to be had for owning your decision, as opposed to allowing your genetic disposition to determine.
Oh man,
your being.
Okay, another wrinkle to this. I came across this thing on TikTok where this black fellow was saying that he has a preference. He prefers to date white women. Oh. And black women tore him to shreds over it. You. Yeah, like basically it's like a full-on betrayal of your culture, your identity, etc., etc. It's like
people have been doing that for a long time, though.
It's like you don't prefer white people, you're a self-hating black person, or you're projecting
whiteness
on yourself. This unattainable ideal, that black women will never be able to achieve. And this whole thing was like, I didn't understand it, because I'm like, well, I mean, I have preferences.
Yeah.
There's physical qualities that turn me off or turn me on.
Yeah.
Like how, like for mine, I guess skin isn't a thing.
No.
Particularly. But like if that was something where somebody was like, yeah, that is a physical quality that specifically is something that,
yeah,
that speaks to me. I'm like, okay, it's like, because I have things that I prefer. Yeah. Like it's like there's physical qualities that my wife has that, maybe have changed over time, but some of them are timeless, but that were reasons why I was physically attracted to her.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, she's a beautiful soul, which she is.
And she's white. So white. American prime.
Yeah. But like let's not pretend that there isn't physical attraction.
No.
And that isn't like, that's a physical thing.
Yeah.
That's not to say that's the only part of love,
but at the same time, you could have the most physically attractive person in the world, but if there's just ugly on the inside, or there's things about them that you're like, I don't care how physically attractive you are if you're just a horrible human being who I can't stand to listen to talk.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're somebody who is of color and for whatever reason, light skin is something that is an attractive feature to you, I don't think you should be shamed for it and called like a traitor. It's like, that's ridiculous to me. Oh.
Yeah, that's
it's like,
stop the racism, everybody. Mm-hmm. Racism is bad. I'm just going to say it. Racism is bad. Go for what you like, and I guarantee you, if you're really dark and you find somebody of your race that doesn't like people that are as dark as you are, trust me, there are guys out there who do.
Oh yeah, like my first crush was an Asian girl.
Really?
Yeah.
I tried to date this one girl. She was from Zimbabwe. So beautiful, but she liked my friend better. And I'm like, what the hell? Every girl I like always likes my friend.
Yeah.
I'm like, screw you. Beautiful girl.
I don't know why I find that so funny, but I do.
It was my life for a long time. I liked the ladies. The ladies didn't like me.
So, if you're single out there, make good friends with Mike.
No, get out of here. Fuck off. And I don't even want single guy friends either. Because single guy friends, they meet a girl and then they're like, oh, we're getting married. Now I got to go to your wedding and have your fucking presents and leave me alone.
I love how curmudgeonly you're getting. All right, next one.
All right, grab. Oh, there we go. I think I cut this one. Yeah. Oh, this one comes from Travis, the Travising. What does it mean to be a man? So for a little bit of context on this one, I was thinking about it. There's been this big question: is what is a woman? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, that one's been
the whole
beaten
Matt
to
Walsh
death,
thing.
the Matt Walsh thing. What does it mean to be a man? Because we measure men a little bit differently than we measure women. Well, very differently, I think. But opposing on the spectrum in a lot of ways. One, penis. In my opinion, there has to be a biological kickoff here. Penis helps. Can a woman be more manly than a man? Yes.
Okay, so in order to have this conversation, you need to say that manly is a quality that is separate from your being born a biological male.
Yes.
Okay.
I do think we can have that.
If that's the premise you're going on, then okay, because instantly when you ask that question, I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't matter what kind of man you are, if you're a giant piece of shit, or if you're a man, if you're a grown up male, right?
With a penis.
Yeah, if you're a male that is past puberty, you're a man.
Yeah, but I've met a lot of men, and I have that in quotations, who can grow a beard, but they're boys. They're boys. They're selfish.
Okay, no, that's helpful.
Okay,
because you're delineating like manly as opposed to boyish.
Yeah.
Rather than manly as opposed to feminine or.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going to use the word, what turns a boy into a man? That I think is a much more helpful narrowing of language.
That's a really good one. Good way to put it. I think responsibility. A boy, same with a girl. A girl doesn't have the same level of responsibility. My wife, she's a young adult, and she goes to youth group, and she's like, "Oh man, or not youth group, sorry, young adults." She was going to young adults for a while, and I'm like, "You're responsible." And she's like, "Oh, my friends are responsible." I'm like, "No, you're responsible for somebody else's life." Same thing as a man. A boy is not responsible for another person's life. A man is. A woman is. Somebody who, like a mom. A mom is responsible. Mm-hmm. When all you are is responsible for yourself, I don't even know if you're a true adult.
Okay, so now you're changing the language again.
I know.
What's an adult rather than an adolescent?
Well, again, responsibility.
Okay, so then this conversation can apply to both men and women then.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what you're actually saying.
Yeah.
Because it could be one of those tribal things of.
Yeah. I'm trying to be as inclusive because there's many aspects to it too.
Well, yeah. I mean,
there's never just if one thing makes you a man or a woman.
Look at a single mom. Like, have you ever met a harder working, more dedicated person in your life than most single moms?
No, they
take the cake and put me to shame. I tell you that.
That being said, I don't think they should have to do it alone.
Have to is a different thing than what is.
Yes, and that's the thing. I have had discussions with people, and they felt like I was attacking them. I'm like, no. I'm saying you shouldn't have to be a single mom. Like, the choices that you made have gotten you to this point. I don't agree with them, and for this person. But that was not the initial design for your life. You were designed to have a husband. You were designed to have a father in the home, so you didn't have to be both. And you work harder than you should have to. Single moms shouldn't have to work that hard.
And the same will go to single dads.
Single dads, too.
Right? You shouldn't have to also be a mother and a father.
Yeah. We're not made that way. And when you have to do it, it sucks because now your child is missing out on something. He is missing out on what a father is or what a mother is to a certain level. You can try and do both, but you can't. A dad can't be the perfect mother, even though he can't even be the perfect father. If you can't even do one well, what makes you think you can do the other one perfectly? Like, if you can't do one perfectly, you can't do the other perfectly. I can't be a perfect dad. As a dad of 4 kids, I'm not a perfect dad. Imagine me trying to be a perfect mom or a mom at the same time. It's impossible.
It's a matter of ideals, right? Like, we have an ideal of what is best.
Yeah.
Life doesn't always work out that way, but
No.
the ideal is there for a reason, right? It's something to strive to ascertain.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, so let's talk about this idea of growing up. So let's go back to the original language,
All right.
just having the rest of this preamble
So responsibility.
tied up in it. Yeah, responsibility. Responsibility is something that makes a man from a boy.
Yes. I think a big part of it is taking on a load that is not your own. Taking on responsibility that is not even yours to take. Because I know some guys that they weren't dads, they weren't husbands, they weren't boyfriends, but there was a desire to take on a responsibility. It's like, I want to be that, so I'm going to be that now. Good friend Johnny. Mm-hmm. Great guy, single guy for too long. He's married now. But he took on the responsibility of his brother. He was his brother's keeper. He's going to be there for the friends that he does have now, to help them when he can help them, to do what he can to make them better.
So even in a situation where you don't have a family or a wife or kids, you still can do things that are manly, that are fatherly or brotherly. Like, you can rise to an occasion. So it's not like you have to be a good dad in order to be a man.
You have to be a married man for 10 years or whatever. Like,
okay.
People who go to war, perfect example of they can be young, but they've taken on a burden they didn't need to. They didn't need to go to war. They didn't need to go in the army. But it changes who you are, and it changes how you grow. They can become men. Again, there could be boys there who are like, I just like shooting stuff, or I like traveling, or I fuck everything. I don't know. Those are misguided, but it's simultaneously there's great men that come out of the army, but they go in as boys.
Yeah. All right. So I get what you're saying here. Is there any other elements that you think add to this, or to being a man, or is it mainly responsibility?
No, it's also, I don't know. I measure myself by how much I can do on my own. It's a bad trait, I know, because I don't like asking for help unless I need it. I don't want to be the guy who's constantly calling, hey, can you help me with this? If I need help, I will call, but at the same time, like, how much can I do on my own? How much weight can I carry without injuring myself, because I don't have time for that shit anymore. But also, how much can I carry on my own without somebody holding my hand? And sometimes if you don't know something, get help. Get help from somebody who does know things. But once you know it, try it on your own. Try and get her done. If you're not getting it right, call for help.
Fair enough.
I do that all the time. Heck, when I was working on my van last weekend, same thing. It's like, oh, you call if you need help. I'm like, yeah, I was going to. I haven't needed help. Well, I needed help, but it's kind of a one-man job. I'm like, how much should I be going into it? So, yeah, could ask for more help, but at the same time, I don't like bothering people. I know it's not a bother either. That's the frustrating part, because I know it's not a bother, while simultaneously, they're there to help in the same way I am for other people.
So I get what you're saying. I think I would just say, like, I don't see that as a measure of manliness.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not crazy in most of my stuff, I assume. How would you measure a man?
I think responsibility is probably it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, these things popping out of the hat, like, we're
Yeah.
we're kind of coming off of things off the cuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, when I think about what is the difference between somebody with an adolescent, when I think of somebody who's immature versus what they are when they are mature,
Yeah.
I think it's a degree of, like, one, responsibility. Like, that's it's a huge thing, like, having another person's life that you are responsible for, and your decisions affect them. However, I've met plenty of people in my life who have responsibility and they drop the ball
Over
and over. and over again.
Yeah.
And so I don't think just having that makes you a man. I think bearing it somewhat well does.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like the guy that taught me my trade.
Oh,
know,
yeah. He was a phenomenal at doing that.
At doing his job. Phenomenal at teaching drywall. He in my eyes, like, I still, at his best, because he deteriorated physically in time, but at his best, he was as good as anybody I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, he had a wife and several children and stuff like that, but he, in a personal way, just really didn't do right by them. Like, you know, so just simply having it doesn't make you a man.
No.
Even when sometimes you do the right thing. But I think it's a matter of a consistent keeping it in right order.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a struggle for everybody to have your life in right order. But
yeah, it's a constant struggle. But recognizing it as a struggle helps too.
Yeah, and being able to deny yourself for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I think is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing of separating boys from men, is how much of your own enjoyment or how much of your own passions or et cetera, you're willing to sacrifice for what you're responsible for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that would be it.
I think that's a good one. Yeah. And if
Okay.
and I know there's a lot of nuance to that.
Yeah, because like we haven't even talked about what it is to be a bad man.
Oh, yeah.
to not be a boy, but be a man, but also be
Just a
bad
man.
Right? Because that's a thing too, and that might need more thought.
That would need more thought. That would take time. Because...
All right, before we start pontificating on that, we'll grab another thing. Should we do this one, the last one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like because we've got like another dozen in here. We're not getting through it all tonight.
No, we just kind of we didn't know what to talk about. Well, we kind of knew a little, but at the same time, we're like, oh, we have so many things. I just wanted to do this. This is a fun little exercise.
All right. So the next one here says ancient structures.
Ancient. Aaron, you were talking to Aaron.
Yeah, I was.
Okay. Are we talking the?
Oh man, but see, this is something I want to talk about with him on the podcast.
Yeah. No, we're not going to be able. And that's there's so much there.
All right.
We're gonna hold that
We're
one
holding
off.
off on that.
Yeah, there's too much. There's too much to go on. Ancient structure.
Judge not.
Judge not. This is something I've been thinking about.
You can't judge me.
Do you ever see the tattoos that say "Only God can judge me"?
Okay.
I see that, and I'm like, that should not be a comforting thing. That should not make you feel good. If you be like, I'm just going to allow God to judge me. Yeah, he will. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
And are you sure? Are you sure you want that? I'm like, this should be the single most terrifying thing in the world to you, and you're getting it tattooed on your skin.
Yeah, but that's future person's problem. Fuck that guy. I'm doing whatever I want now with impunity.
Yeah.
And you know, like maybe
Based on my lived experience.
eternal annihilation will be worth it.
Yeah. All right.
So that's one of the things that actually. Oops. Sorry. I just made a whole bunch of noise.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things that I struggle with a little bit, like as a callback to the Chris Date episode.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about annihilation, and to a degree, a lot of it makes sense.
Yes.
But there's also that element of like, oh man, like if you're like sinning on like nonstop, unrepentantly, just knowing it's lights out for you at the end and just being willing to accept that, like, man, I almost feel like you right there deserve some eternal punishment.
You deserve a little more smiting.
Yeah. You deserve extra smitage.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, no, and I get that. And when you give people that out, and I think that's where you can make a case for the idea of conscious eternal torment, is because I'm like, well, some people are going to take advantage of I'll suffer a little.
So let me ask you a question. What are the kind of people that give you that you can't judge me attitude?
Well, some of them are these people that they quote the Bible when they say judge not. They're like, the Bible says judge not. And that's the one verse they know, even though it's only half the verse. But they say, judge not. And they're like, no, this is what the Bible says, judge not. And I don't like that. Because the people that say that don't like the second part. They don't read the second part of the verse.
Which is?
Lest ye be judged. So a better way of understanding it is the way that you judge others is going to be how you are judged. So the same grace and mercy that you show others, that's the grace and mercy that will be shown to you. So maybe not judge them harshly, but judge them with a firm understanding that you don't see everything. But that doesn't mean don't make a judgment call. Could you imagine a judge who went like that? A proper judge, somebody who this is what he does. He is a judge. He's like, yes, he murdered somebody, but we don't know the whole story. What? We know that he murdered somebody. It's like he broke this law. I may not agree with it. He might have done it for a really good reason, but that doesn't take away the fact that they did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to say, okay, when you made this decision, you knew you were breaking a law. If I murder somebody who touches my kids inappropriately, I've murdered that guy. I have. I've taken into understanding, I know what my judgment, my punishment will be, and I'm going to be punished for that. But they're like, no, we need to judge them in light of that. It's like, oh, but they did this. It's like they still they did something wrong in response to something that was wrong. Mm-hmm. And so we don't judge, we don't look at other people's scenarios that way with that same grace and understanding of we don't see everything. So I do think that we shouldn't judge too harshly. We still judge. We make judgment calls. There's people we were talking about this earlier when it comes to people we don't hang out with. Mm-hmm. That's a judgment call. They're crazy. Are you sure they just didn't have a hard life experience?
Yeah, prudence.
You're no. I don't care about their life experience. If it'll destroy my life, I'm going to make a judgment call and not hang out with that person because their life, their failure is going to bring me down.
Yeah. So when I hear that verse, like I read it.
You just read it?
Yeah, I just read it. I'll actually read the next couple verses.
Okay.
Past it too.
I was gonna write it down where it was. I just.
Okay. Yeah. So I looked it up while you were talking. So it's Matthew, chapter 7, starting with verse 1 through verse 3. Judge not that ye not. Oh, damn it! It has to be KJV. Why? What the absolute crap is this?
Why'd you go to that one?
I just clicked on the
Clinked?
I clicked on a Google link.
Do I want to have a little bit of knob? I'm gonna have a little knob.
All right, you pour yourself a little bit of knob, and I'm going to pull this up on my Bible app. Oh, we are such professionals.
Doesn't matter. If people wanted us to give them really high quality shit, they'd start paying us. You want us to be more professional, you go ahead and send us a little coin and we'll start doing that. We do have an Amazon wish list if anyone wants to look it up.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I put one together. If you want to see what we're trying to make money for actually putting together better content.
Yes, if you donate money to us, it is actually going to go to stuff to produce better content.
If you want to, you can buy it and get it sent to us. If you're like, I don't trust you to spend that money properly.
I feel like we should put that link on the Facebook page after this episode drops. Mm-hmm. All right. Matthew 7, verse 1. Do not judge so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye?
Yeah.
Or how can you say to your neighbor, let me check the speck, or take the speck out of your eye, while the log is in your own? You hypocrite, first take out the log of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of their neighbor's eye. So it's talking about hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's talking about hypocrisy. You know, if you're like,
but it's not directly saying judge not.
No.
They're putting caveats.
Yeah, they're putting caveats, being like, measure yourself on this, right?
Yeah.
Because like, if you judge harshly something that you're insanely guilty of and have not repented of or dealt with,
Yeah.
but you're expecting somebody else to deal with, then when God deals with you, he's going to be like, oh, you think this is minor?
Yeah.
Like, well, you weren't minor with that guy.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. Then you got the same level of hypocrisy in some areas where, oh, I don't struggle with drug addiction, so I can judge them based on that because I don't have a log in my eye when it comes to drug addiction. I have porn addiction, but it's different. And so it's like, no, you have a speck in your eye. It may not be the same as someone else's.
Yeah.
And it might be bigger or worse. But does that mean you just overlook what's going on? You're like, no, there's a problem here. There's a problem here.
This is the kind of nuanced conversation that verse is meant to do, right?
Yeah.
It's meant to get you to stop being overly critical about things that you struggle with.
Yeah.
Now, if you're somebody who is just being like, no, you can't judge me, as you're, saying you're, a Bible-loving, Jesus-loving Christian, and out at the bar hooking up with a bunch of guys and cheating on your husband and slamming back shots of tequila, you can't judge me. Like, at that point, yeah, I can.
Yeah, we can.
Because I don't cheat on my wife, and I don't pretend to be super happy, preppy Christian on Sunday and then close down the bar, the night before, and not think that there's a discrepancy in lifestyle or do anything about it, right? Like, at that point, like, man, I'm sorry, I'm perfectly happy judging that person.
Yep. I'm going to make a judgment call.
Yeah, it's like
you are doing wrong.
You are doing wrong. You need to get your ass to confession.
and there's just horrible things that Christians do, where they're like, no, we need to be nice. We need to be nice to them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm very cordial and polite, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go hang out with that person. And I'm not going to put myself at risk out of being nice. The risk. My soul, my life, my wife, my children are not worth that risk. I'm going to make a judgment call and say I'm not hanging out with that person, or I'm not going to be seen associated directly with this person because I know what goes along with that. And
and I'm not going to be guilted into it by you being like, "What, you think you're better than me?"
Yes, yes.
I do. I'm not going to be guilted into safeguarding my family and my own soul. By you throwing that crap.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
not happening.
No.
So judge a little. Judge a little.
So the other thing that I've heard is people being like, "Don't judge that person's ministry."
Oh. By the judge it by the fruit.
Judge it by its fruit. Ooh. Don't or just don't judge at all. Like just let God sort it out.
Yep.
Who knows what kind of good stuff is going on there.
Yeah.
Just because good stuff is happening at a place doesn't mean blatant public awful stuff is also happening too.
Yep. But they cast out demons in your name.
Yeah, and calling out
Bible verse.
Yeah, calling out public ministry for public sin is not like that's people do it. Like half of our New Testament is all about Paul being like, this is wrong, and that's wrong, and that guy is wrong, and you guys are fucking up. Stop it.
Yeah.
He even went to Peter and like publicly is like, like you are causing division in the body of Christ. No, not the guy who went and confronted him. If I'd use you're not causing division in the body of the Christ by trying to deal with sin. Like that's.
Yeah.
So, public facing ministries that have public issues and public moral failures and blatantly do things that are hypocritical or false or in bad ethics, I think they deserve to be called out. And you can't just say judge not because you don't know what good stuff's going on there.
Yeah.
You just need to be in the headspace of being like, am I in a place to be able to say this? Do I have a plank in my own eye? I mean, consider these things, but you can't just go on letting things play out.
Out of being a nice little Christian.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, but that's how bad things happen.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about that when it came to the Joneses, right? The Jonestown.
Oh yeah, we were.
Did talk about that a little bit, where we're like, oh, if somebody would have said something sooner, instead of being like, oh, but look at all the good that's happening. You can't judge them.
Yeah, it's
maybe judge.
Judge
Enough.
There's certain types of things that you can just be like, okay, yeah, you deserve criticism.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're condemning a person to hell. It doesn't mean it's a personal attack on everybody.
This doesn't give you license to be an asshole.
Yeah, and just making criticism isn't you condemning everybody to hell. Mm-hmm. Criticizing something is not you hopping on a high horse all the time. It can be, but it's not that necessarily.
Yeah.
And it's not a personal attack for everybody who's a part of that church.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you are personally attacking everybody, it's part of the church.
So there was this thing that was happening at my church where they called them put yourself in receiving mode, where you put your hands in front of you as if to receive, to catch something, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so my associate pastor went and called out, he's like, I just want to break this idea that you need to put yourself in some kind of physical posturing in order to get something. And I really like that. I'm like, oh, good. I love that. I like when the associate pastor does stuff, because he's saying, you don't need to do this. Just get your heart in the right place. Like, I want you to feel free to not have to, but free to do it as well. And so I went and I'm like, hey, I really appreciate that. He's like, you're allowed to say stuff. I'm like, yeah, but when I say it, I just sound like an asshole. Like, I just sound like I'm that guy who just always bringing something up. And I'm like, I don't want to be that. But when people say something I like, I want to encourage them and be like, hey, that's really good. I heard a lot today that I didn't agree with. I'm like, but a lot that I did. It was an interesting Sunday.
See, but that's fine. Like, having stuff, in a sermon, whatever, that you disagree with, that's fine. Like, it's not worth.
But
it's not worth putting somebody on blast. But let's say your head pastor is fucking the receptionist. And everybody
don't say nothing.
And everybody finds out about it, and you're like,
Judge not.
Nope, don't do it. You're like, okay, no, sorry. You can't be our pastor anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
it's time to judge.
It's at that point, it's time to give a prudential judgment.
Yeah. And there is a time. And there is a place. And
it
doesn't always have to be you. Just saying, like,
and that can happen anywhere. Like, so you don't want to just be like outright like fire and brimstone to any church that ever had sexual immorality as a part of it.
Yeah,
because it can happen to you.
Yeah, I do find it interesting that there's this thing in culture right now where even obscure companies like Willy Wonka will have to pass judgment on an event that's happening. Like, oh, we stand with this organization. We stand. Yeah. Everyone else putting their 2 cents on everything that doesn't matter.
Yeah. So that's probably an intelligent thing to cut against.
Yeah,
some of what we're saying is like just doing virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's what public
passing judgment that way as like some sort of like blasé, vain virtue signal.
Yeah.
Where you're not risking anything, you're not part of it.
When we say racism is bad, we're not risking anything by saying that. No one's going to be like, what? What?
Yeah, but me putting a Ukraine flag over my Facebook profile,
and showing the world, hey, this is who I stand with.
And just being like, F Putin, like, that is a vain thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, there's no moral high ground we have as a country.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't make you better.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make you better.
But that's what it says. It's like, don't worry, we're against this too. Mm-hmm. And it's just so lazy.
All right, brother. Well, I think we should probably wrap up.
Yeah, we got a late start. And at the same time, we're just rambling and having fun.
But we still have a lot of things in the hat there.
I think we should add to it too. Just keep a couple papers and just keep...
Every now and then when we run out of ideas.
So if you guys have questions, you guys can message them to us.
And it'll go in the hat.
Yeah, unless it's a dumb question. We could do that. We won't do them all the time, but we will do it.
Well, we can do a dumb question.
Oh, we can do dumb ones. Travis, go ahead. Just keep...
Yeah. I mean, even if what we say is like, oh my gosh, this is a stupid question, you're a dumbass, and move on, we can do that.
We'll put your name to it if you like, too.
Yes.
If you want anonymous, we can leave it anomalous.
Anomalous.
So if you guys have questions, send us. Hey, you're looking for questions too when it comes to theology for the amateur Christian one. So if you guys have questions about theology, send them to Devin or on your Facebook page, Amateur Christian Podcast.
It doesn't matter how arcane or weird or simple.
Yeah.
It's just if you have a question about something that you want to hear talked about or force me to do research, then
I am looking forward to your Easter episode. Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited about that one.
All right, guys. Well, we love y'all. God
Cool.
bless.
Peace. Music has been brought to us by Kirk the Riffer Wells at Liquid State Audio. He is a guitarist, producer, and the mixing engineer. Thank you from the Blue Collar Philosophers.